Welcome to your Inspirations Quick Travel Guide. Today, we're taking a deep dive into Iceland. Just listen to Iceland Edition. You know what I love? I love that we can take you on these audio journeys, and you can enhance the experience. With our general video clips of Iceland over on our YouTube channel, you're ready to step onto the land of fire and ice.
Absolutely. And you know what makes Iceland so captivating? Is that fire and ice isn't just a catchy phrase. It's the reality of this incredible island. You've got these powerful geological forces shaping the landscape, unlike anything else on Earth.
Okay, so our sources are overflowing with images of volcanoes, glaciers, waterfalls, even black sand beaches. It doesn't even seem real. It's like a movie set or something.
And that's just the tip of the iceberg, so to speak. Think about this. Iceland sits right on the mid-Atlantic ridge, where the North American and Eurasian tectonic plates are pulling apart. And that creates this constant volcanic activity, which has shaped these incredible landscapes over millions of years. We're talking about massive lava fields, geothermal areas with erupting geysers, and even new land being formed as we speak.
So it's like a living geology textbook.
Yeah.
But I'm getting ahead of myself. Our notes mention the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. One source even calls it Iceland in miniature. What's the story there?
So imagine this. You're driving along this peninsula, and in a single day, you go from hiking across a lava field to exploring a cave formed by ancient volcanic eruptions. Then we're standing on a cliff, watching waves crash against dramatic basalt columns, those hexagonal rock formations, with the Snæfellsjökull Glacier looming in the distance. That's Snæfellsnes. It's like experiencing all of Iceland's geological wonders in one compact area.
Wow. It sounds like a photographer's dream. Then we have the Westfjords, which our sources describe as super remote and tranquil. What's the vibe there?
If you're looking to escape the crowds and experience true wilderness, the Westfjords are calling. Picture this: dramatic fjords carving their way through towering mountains, with tiny fishing villages clinging to the edges. There's a sense of isolation and untouched beauty that's hard to find elsewhere. Plus, you've got unique wildlife like Arctic foxes, whales, and puffins. It's a nature lover's paradise.
All right, but we can't talk about Iceland without mentioning the waterfalls. Seljalandsfoss, Skogafoss, Gullfoss. Our sources are full of these breathtaking images, and they all seem so unique. Where do we even begin?
Let's start with Seljalandsfoss. What's special about this one is that you can actually walk behind the cascading water. Can you imagine the feeling of being surrounded by that raw power with the mist on your face and the thunderous roar all around you?
I'm getting chills just thinking about it. And then there's Skogafoss. It's described as this massive wall of water with legend of hidden Viking treasure. Talk about adding an element of mystery to an already epic landscape.
And then you have Gullfoss, which is part of the famous Golden Circle route, a classic Icelandic experience. What's fascinating about Gullfoss is that it's not just a single drop. It's a two-tiered waterfall that plunges into this narrow canyon, creating this incredible display of raw power and beauty. It's almost impossible to capture at scale in a photo. You have to experience it for yourself.
All right. I'm officially hooked on waterfalls. But let's shift gears for a second and talk about something equally epic: the glaciers. Our sources mentioned Vatnajökull, the largest ice cap in Europe, and I'm having trouble even comprehending the size of that.
Imagine a vast expanse of ice. That covers an area larger than some countries. That's Vatnajökull. And it's not just flat ice, it's this dynamic landscape with deep crevasses, towering ice formations, and even subglacial volcanoes hidden beneath the surface. It's a reminder of the immense forces that have shaped our planet over millions of years.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. And then there's this place called Jökulsárlón Glacier Lagoon, where these massive icebergs are just floating towards the sea. Some even wash up on the nearby black sand beach, which they call Diamond Beach. It seems almost otherworldly.
It's truly a sight to behold. The contrast of the crystal clear ice against the stark black sand is striking. And it's a photographer's dream. It's also a powerful reminder of the constant cycle of nature. Ice to water, land to sea.
All this talk of ice is making me crave a hot bath. Our sources mention the famous geyser geothermal area. Isn't that where the word geyser actually comes from?
That's right. The Great Geyser itself might not erupt as often as it used to, but its neighbor Stroker puts on a show every few minutes, shooting this massive plume of boiling water high into the air. It's this incredible display of raw geothermal energy, and it's a must-see for any visitor to Iceland.
And of course, we can't forget about the Blue Lagoon, the ultimate Icelandic spa experience. Everyone's seen those iconic pictures of people relaxing in that milky blue water. What's the secret behind that?
It's not just about the aesthetics. The water in the Blue Lagoon is actually rich in minerals, particularly silica, which has these therapeutic and skin-soothing qualities. People come from all over the world to experience its healing properties. And it's a great way to unwind after a day of exploring Iceland's incredible landscapes.
It's like the perfect way to end a day of adventure. But speaking of adventure, let's talk about Iceland's vibrant capital city, Reykjavik. What kind of cultural experiences await us there?
Reykjavik is this charming city with a unique blend of traditional and modern elements. You've got colorful buildings, cozy cafes, and a surprisingly diverse culinary scene. And then there's the iconic Hallgrímskirkja Church, with its striking architecture inspired by Iceland's basalt columns. It's a must-see for any visitor to Reykjavik.
I read that you can actually go up to the church's observation deck for panoramic views of the city. Sign me up. And what about food and nightlife? What should we be looking out for?
Reykjavik has a surprisingly vibrant nightlife for such a small city, with everything from cozy pubs to trendy bars and live music venues. And the food scene is incredible. With a mix of traditional Icelandic dishes, fresh seafood, and international cuisine, you'll find something for every taste and budget.
So you can go from soaking in a hot spring to sipping cocktails in a trendy bar, all in one day. Iceland is sounding more and more appealing by the minute. But what about getting around? We've heard about the Ring Road. But is that the only way to explore the country?
The Ring Road is a great way to see the highlights and experience a variety of landscapes. But it's not the only option. You can also rent a car and explore at your own pace, venturing off onto those F-roads, which are unpaved routes that lead into the highlands. Just remember, driving on F-roads requires a 4x4 vehicle and some experience driving in challenging conditions.
So maybe not for the faint of heart, but I love that sense of freedom and adventure, being able to choose your own path and discover hidden gems along the way. Our sources mention some incredible hiking trails, like the Laugavegir Trail, which takes you past volcanoes and glaciers. It sounds pretty intense.
Hiking in Iceland is an incredible way to immerse yourself in the raw beauty of the landscape. But it's important to remember that Iceland's ecosystems are delicate, so it's crucial to stay on marked paths, follow local guidelines, and leave no trace. Responsible travel is key to preserving Iceland's beauty for future generations.
That's a great reminder. We want to enjoy Iceland's beauty responsibly. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have to ask, what about those recently active volcanoes? Isn't that a safety concern for travelers?
Volcanic activity is a part of life in Iceland, but they have a very sophisticated system for monitoring volcanoes and keeping people informed. In fact, those eruptions have created some fascinating new landscapes that have become popular tourist destinations. Just imagine hiking up to a recently active volcano and seeing molten lava flows. It's an experience you'll never forget.
Okay, that's officially on my bucket list. But we'll have to save that discussion for the next part of our deep dive.
Indeed. There's still so much more to explore and discover in Iceland. From hidden hot springs to Viking history and folklore. You know what's remarkable? Is that Iceland's natural wonders aren't just about scenery. They're deeply intertwined with Icelandic culture and history.
Okay, that's fascinating. So what does that mean for the traveler? What kind of experiences can we expect if we venture off the beaten path, beyond the iconic waterfalls and glaciers?
Imagine hiking through a desolate lava field, the wind whipping through your hair. And suddenly, you stumble upon a steaming hot spring hidden in a cave. It's like stepping back in time into a scene from a Viking saga. You can almost feel the presence of those early settlers who navigated these harsh landscapes and found ways to thrive.
Speaking of Viking sagas, our sources mention Þingvellir National Park, which is described as this incredibly significant place, both historically and geologically. What makes it so special?
Þingvellir is a UNESCO World Heritage Site for a reason. Not only was it the site of Iceland's first parliament back in the 10th century, imagine those early gatherings, making laws amidst this dramatic landscape, but it's also where you can actually see the rift between the tectonic plates. You can literally walk through the Almannagjá Gorge, which is the divide between the North American and Eurasian continents.
Wow. That gives me chills just thinking about it. It's like standing on the edge of history, witnessing the forces that have shaped both the land and the people.
Exactly. And speaking of shaping the people, one thing that might surprise visitors is the abundance of wildlife in Iceland. It might seem like a harsh environment, but it's teeming with life, especially if you know where to look.
Okay, give us some examples. What kind of wildlife encounters can we expect in Iceland?
Well, for starters, Iceland is a birdwatcher's paradise. You've got puffins nesting on the cliffs with their colorful beaks and comical waddles. Then there are Arctic terns, these incredible birds that migrate thousands of miles, and even the elusive white-tailed eagles soaring overhead.
I've always wanted to see puffins in the wild. They just look so adorable.
Yeah.
What about larger animals? Our sources mention whale watching. And I've heard you can sometimes even see whales from the shore. Is that true?
It's definitely possible, especially in places like the Snæfellsnes Peninsula and the Westfjords. But even if you don't spot any whales from land, the boat tours are an experience in themselves. Imagine being out on the open ocean, surrounded by these magnificent creatures as they breach and dive. It's a humbling and unforgettable experience.
Okay, I'm adding whale watching to my must-do list now. Now, we can't talk about Iceland without mentioning the food. I have to admit, I'm a little intimidated by some of the traditional dishes I've heard about, like fermented shark. Is it really as intense as people say?
Hakar, as it's called in Icelandic, is definitely an acquired taste. It has a very strong ammonia smell and a chewy texture that takes some getting used to. But Icelandic cuisine has a lot more to offer than just fermented shark.
Okay, that's a relief. So what else should we be trying? Give us the inside scoop on Icelandic cuisine.
Well, lamb is a staple in Iceland, and it's incredibly delicious. They have these free-roaming sheep that graze on wild herbs and grasses, which gives the meat a unique and flavorful taste. It's often served roasted or in stews, and it's a must-try for any foodie visiting Iceland.
That sounds amazing. And what about seafood? Iceland is an island after all, so I'm assuming that the seafood is pretty fresh.
You're absolutely right. The seafood in Iceland is incredibly fresh and flavorful. You'll find everything from cod and haddock to langoustine and Arctic char, often prepared in simple but delicious ways that highlight the natural flavors. And of course, there's skyr, a traditional Icelandic yogurt that's thick, creamy, and tangy. It's a great source of protein. And a popular breakfast or snack.
Okay, my mouth is watering now.
Okay.
So we've got stunning landscapes, fascinating history, incredible wildlife, and delicious food. Is there anything else we should know before we book our tickets to Iceland? Any practical tips or things to keep in mind?
Well, one thing that's important to remember is that Iceland is a country that respects nature. Visitors are expected to follow the rules, stay on marked paths, and leave no trace of their visit. It's about enjoying Iceland's beauty responsibly so that future generations can experience it too.
Absolutely. Responsible travel is so important, especially in a place as pristine and vulnerable as Iceland. But I have to ask about one more thing, the weather. I've heard that Iceland can be quite unpredictable, with all 4 seasons in one day. Is that true?
The weather in Iceland is definitely something to be prepared for. It can change very quickly, from sunshine to rain to snow, sometimes all within a matter of hours. So packing layers is essential. That way you can adjust to the changing conditions throughout the day. And of course, you'll need a waterproof jacket and sturdy shoes, no matter what time of year you visit.
Okay, noted. Layers, waterproof jacket, sturdy shoes. Check. So if we're prepared for all kinds of weather, we can experience Iceland at its best, right? But what about those specific regions or areas that are a must-see for first-time visitors?
Well, as we mentioned earlier, the Golden Circle is a classic Icelandic experience. It takes you to Þingvellir National Park, Gullfoss Waterfall, and the Geyser Geothermal area, all on a day trip from Reykjavik. It's a great introduction to Iceland's natural wonders and a must-do for first-timers.
That sounds like a perfect first day in Iceland. But what about something a little more off the beaten path? We're always up for an adventure. And those hidden gems that most tourists miss?
If you're looking for something truly unique, I highly recommend visiting the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. It's often called Iceland in miniature, because it has such a diverse range of landscapes, everything from glaciers and volcanoes to black sand beaches and charming fishing villages.
I love that. Iceland in miniature. It's like getting a taste of all of Iceland in one concentrated area. What are some of the highlights of the Snæfellsnes Peninsula? What should we be looking out for?
One of the most iconic landmarks is Kirkjufell Mountain, which is this perfectly shaped peak that's often photographed with the nearby Kirkjufellsfoss waterfall in the foreground. It's an incredibly scenic spot, especially at sunset when the light casts these amazing colors on the landscape.
Okay, I can already picture it. Those cascading waterfalls, the dramatic mountain peaks silhouetted against the sky. It sounds magical.
And if you're interested in exploring caves, there's the Vatnshellir lava cave, which is an 8,000-year-old lava tube that you can walk through. It's like stepping into another world with these incredible formations and a sense of mystery. That's hard to describe.
Okay, that's definitely going on my list. What about something a little more adventurous? I'm thinking hiking, maybe even some glacier trekking. Is that something that's accessible to most people?
Absolutely. If you're looking for a challenge, The Lagavegur Trail is considered one of the best multi-day hikes in Iceland. It takes you through some of the most stunning landscapes in the highlands, including colorful rhyolite mountains, geothermal areas, and glacial valleys.
Wow, that sounds intense, but incredible. What about something a little less strenuous, but still allows us to get up close and personal with the glacier?
You could always go on a glacier walk, or even try ice climbing. There are several tour operators that offer guided excursions on glaciers like Vatnajökull and Vatnajökull. They provide all the necessary equipment and guidance, so you can experience the thrill of walking on a glacier safely.
I have to admit, the idea of walking on a glacier is both exhilarating and a little terrifying. But I'm always up for pushing my boundaries and trying new things.
That's the spirit. And trust me, it's an experience you'll never forget.
So no matter what your level of adventure is, Iceland seems to have something to offer. But what about those who are looking for a more relaxing experience? Are there any places where we can just unwind and soak in the beauty of Iceland's nature without breaking a sweat?
Absolutely. Iceland is famous for its hot springs, and there are countless options to choose from, each with its own unique charm.
Like the Blue Lagoon, right? We talked about that earlier. It seems like the ultimate pampering experience.
The Blue Lagoon is definitely iconic, but it can get quite crowded. If you're looking for a more intimate and authentic experience, there are plenty of lesser-known hot springs scattered throughout the country, often tucked away in these incredible natural settings.
Ooh, secret hot springs.
Yeah.
Do you have any recommendations? We're always up for trying something new and off the beaten path.
Well, one of my personal favorites is the Secret Lagoon, which is located in a small village called Flugir. It's one of the oldest swimming pools in Iceland, and it's fed by natural hot springs. It's a really charming and relaxing place to spend an afternoon, surrounded by nature and steaming water.
I love the name, the Secret Lagoon. It sounds so mysterious and alluring.
And if you're up for a bit of an adventure, there's the Seljavala log swimming pool, which is nestled in a valley between two glaciers. It's a bit of a hike to get there, but it's totally worth it. The pool is surrounded by stunning scenery, and it's free to use.
Free, that's incredible. I'm sensing a theme here. Iceland seems to have an abundance of natural wonders that are accessible to everyone, regardless of budget.
That's one of the things I love about Iceland. There's this real sense of connection to nature here, and it's something that's shared and celebrated by both locals and visitors.
Okay, I'm officially convinced Iceland is at the top of my travel list. But before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I have one last question. If you could only recommend one must-do experience in Iceland, what would it be?
That's a tough one. There are so many incredible things to see and do in Iceland, but if I had to choose, I would say it's witnessing the northern lights.
Ah, yes, the Aurora Borealis. I've seen pictures, but I can only imagine how magical it is to see them in person.
There's nothing quite like it. The sky comes alive with these shimmering curtains of light, dancing and swirling in a kaleidoscope of colors. It's a truly awe-inspiring spectacle, and it's something that will stay with you long after you leave Iceland.
Okay, you've sold me. Now I just need to figure out when to go and how long to stay. But that sounds like a topic for another deep dive.
Indeed. There's still so much more to explore and discover in Iceland, from the best time to visit to tips for planning your itinerary, so you're ready to experience Iceland's magic for yourself. The question is, when is the best time to go? Our sources suggest different seasons offer very different experiences, almost like there are multiple Icelands to discover.
That's what I'm curious about. It's almost overwhelming. Midnight sun, ice caves, northern lights. How do we choose?
You're right. Each season paints the landscape in a new light. Summer, with its near-constant daylight, is perfect for exploring those remote regions we talked about. The Westfjords, the Highlands. You can literally hike at midnight with the sun still shining.
Okay, that's on my bucket list for sure. Hiking under the midnight sun. But what about those incredible ice caves we saw pictures of? When's the best time to experience those?
Ice caves are a winter phenomenon, typically accessible from November to March. They're formed by meltwater curving tunnels through the glaciers, creating these almost surreal blue chambers within the ice.
It's like stepping into a hidden world, a crystal palace made of ice. But doesn't traveling in winter mean facing snow, ice, and limited daylight? It seems like there's a trade-off for every season.
You're right. Winter travel in Iceland definitely requires more preparation, warmer clothes, and a bit more caution. But the rewards are unique. Imagine soaking in a hot spring under a sky filled with the northern lights. It's an experience that's almost impossible to describe.
Okay, now you're speaking my language. That sounds absolutely magical. But let's say I only have a week or so. Is that enough time to get a good taste of Iceland?
Absolutely. You can easily spend a week exploring the highlights, especially if you focus on a particular region like the South Coast or the Snæfellsnes Peninsula. You can do day trips, scenic drives, maybe even a glacier hike. Plenty to fill a week with unforgettable experiences.
And if we're lucky enough to have a bit more time, say 10 days or 2 weeks, what could we add to the itinerary?
With more time, you could do a full ring road trip, circumnavigating the entire island. That gives you the chance to see the full spectrum of landscapes, from volcanic fields and black sand beaches to glacial lagoons and geothermal areas. Plus, you can experience different regions and their unique charm. Maybe even venture off the ring road onto some of those F-roads for a true off-the-beaten-path adventure.
This is getting me so excited to start planning my Iceland trip, but let's get practical for a second. Our sources mentioned some important tips for travelers. What are some things we should keep in mind to make the trip as smooth and enjoyable as possible?
One thing that's often overlooked, even beyond packing layers for the unpredictable weather, is the currency situation. Iceland uses the Icelandic krona. And while credit cards are widely accepted, it's a good idea to have some local currency on hand, especially for smaller purchases or in more remote areas.
Good point. It's always good to be prepared. What about things like driving in Iceland? Are there any specific challenges or things we need to be aware of?
Driving in Iceland can be an adventure in itself. While the ring road is generally well maintained, those F-roads we mentioned can be quite challenging, with unpaved surfaces, river crossings, and narrow roads. You definitely need a 4x4 vehicle and some experience driving in those conditions.
So maybe not a rental car for a first-time visitor, unless they stick to the main roads. What about safety concerns? We talked about volcanoes. But are there other things we should be aware of to stay safe and enjoy our trip responsibly?
Iceland is a very safe country overall, but it's important to respect the power of nature. Those beautiful black sand beaches, for example, can have strong currents and sneaker waves that can be dangerous. Always be aware of your surroundings, heed any warnings or signs, and never underestimate the force of the ocean.
That's such important advice. It's easy to get caught up in the beauty of a place and forget that nature can be unpredictable. It's all about enjoying Iceland's beauty responsibly,
Right.
respecting the environment, the culture, and our own safety.
Exactly. And that respect is something you'll find embedded in Icelandic culture, a deep connection to nature and a sense of responsibility for preserving it.
Speaking of Icelandic culture, I know we touched on it a bit when discussing Reykjavik.
Yeah.
But any final thoughts on what makes Icelandic culture unique? What might surprise visitors?
One thing that often surprises visitors is how deeply rooted in tradition Icelandic culture is. Despite being a modern and progressive society, you'll find that folklore and mythology are still very much alive, and there's a strong sense of community and connection to the land.
It's like the past and present coexist in harmony, creating this rich and fascinating tapestry.
I love that. Okay. I think we've covered just about everything, from glaciers and volcanoes to hot springs and Viking history. Any final words of wisdom for someone planning their first trip to Iceland? What should they keep in mind to make the most of this incredible experience?
Embrace the unexpected. Iceland is a land of surprises, where nature is constantly changing and revealing new wonders. Be open to spontaneity, be prepared for anything, and most importantly, allow yourself to be awed by the raw beauty of this incredible island.
That's beautiful advice. It's like Iceland is calling us to step out of our comfort zones and reconnect with the power of nature. I don't know about you, but I'm feeling inspired to start packing my bags right now.
Thanks for listening to our deep dive into Iceland. For more travel inspiration, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Your Inspirations Quick Travel Guide. Happy travels!